Washington Pod presents Earl Nightingale.
For every man in the course of his life becomes what he thinks, is formed by his thoughts. If what he thinks is narrow and unreal, he himself becomes narrow and unreal. Now, as Manus points out, this gets to the point. If we approach our problems as something economic science can solve, then we shall be behaving in exactly the way we've behaved in the past. Economic man is helpless to change as economic man. Even prudential considerations applied toward conservation do not work, as Aldo Leopold shows in the concluding chapter of the Sand County Almanac. After describing the failures of conservation based upon economic calculations, he says, "It is inconceivable to me that an ethical relation to land can exist without love, respect, and admiration for the land and a high regard for its value. And by value, I of course mean something far broader than mere economic value. I mean value in the philosophical sense." Well, now the question arises, how do people achieve a sense of value in the philosophical sense? Well, Schumacher says that people are formed by their thoughts, that they become what they think. Now, if this is the case, and I certainly believe it is, then the content of our minds, what we occupy our thoughts with as real, as enduring, as having value, is crucial to the problems which lie before us. While our problems seem to hurt us at the economic level, they did not originate at the economic level. They began with what we've thought about ourselves. And later on in the article, it's pointed out that our difficulty is mainly that we hope for the same sort of certainty in an alternative kind of thinking that we've enjoyed in scientific calculations and their technological applications. This is the exactitude of standardization, of uniformity, of predictability, and of single-valued thinking. The thinking we need to adopt, little by little, is the independent thinking of individuals, without certification from any authority, guided only by those inner disciplines which, for the artist, who may here serve as a model, become his sense of limit, his recognition of fitness, his insistence upon a fineness of form. In short, by what is for us an educated voice of conscience. A company of conscientious men makes an illuminated community, and such communities are the seedbed of civilized society. We're speaking, we suppose, of what might be called a consensus of human enlightenment. How else should we speak of it? The outlook has some uniformity, but agreement is reached spontaneously, never by plan, so the advocate of philosophic reform, the man who speaks in the language of Blake, of Tolstoy, of Buddha, or Socrates, is at a serious disadvantage when invited to explain what will take the place of scientific certainty. He has no similar certainty to offer, and perhaps no ordinary certainty at all. This advocate speaks to us in the idiom of self-discovered truth. Should he try to imitate the precise language of science, he soon becomes a dogmatist, which makes him guilty of the greatest possible offense against the spirit of religion, worse by far than mere materialism, which is only honest skepticism or unbelief. Dogma is an attempt to standardize what is by nature unique, without duplicate, and unrepeatable, save at a distance in the moral ephemera of the arts. The arts do not pretend to reveal religious truth, although they may supply its most representative symbols. In the discipline of the arts, we may find suggestive analogies of what is involved in the independent pursuit of religious and philosophic truth. Little wonder, then, that the greatest of religious teachers, Buddha and Christ, refused to write anything down. They left such tasks to their less illustrious followers as a way of guarding against slavish belief. Unfortunately, such measures do not always work in the way that's desired. In his essay, Civilization and the Arts, W. McNeill Dixon gives the arts a high meaning that is seldom encountered these days, yet one with immeasurable restorative value for our impoverished civilization. He writes, "There is, as everyone knows, a province of human life, and only upon reflection do we perceive how vast, how boundless is that province, to whose interests and problems the most extensive knowledge or control of nature's machinery affords no entrance, a country upon which the bright sun of science sheds not a ray of light. It is the country of the soul. We have our affections and sympathies, we have loves and friendships, we have hopes and fears and admirations, inmates of a province of real things as broad and deep as the telescopic heavens above our heads. And of these things science never speaks. She sits above the battle and has no share in our joys and sorrows. Of good and evil, freedom and justice, science has nothing to say. The scientific vocabulary does not include such words as beauty or heroism, nobility or charm, resignation or despair, kindness or generosity, character or conduct. Not until you ponder such words do you perceive how narrow and inhuman is the view that omits them, the internal experiences with which our minds are so continuously occupied from the cradle to the grave. And Dixon used the arts to suggest our need for becoming, as Nietzsche put it, entangled in the infinities. The arts are purposefully vague, as well as naturally so, and Dixon's justification makes the conclusion of the Manus article. When you enter the temple of the arts, you enter a building dedicated to the muses, and the soul is there disturbed by a sense of how great and terrible, how strange and beautiful is this universe of ours. Make human life as trivial as you please. There remains the simple, positive, undeniable fact among other facts, the eating, drinking, walking, and talking, that we are taking part in cosmic affairs of a magnitude beyond all imagination to compass or language to express. All finite things have their roots in the infinite, and if you wish to understand life at all, you cannot tear it out of its context. All finite things have their roots in the infinite, and if you wish to understand life at all, you cannot tear it out of its context. For every man in the course of his life becomes what he thinks, is formed by his thoughts. If what he thinks is narrow and unreal, he himself becomes narrow and unreal.